Hey there guys, this is me and Malorian, and what we're going to be talking today is, for new players, what casters should they be trying to be leaning towards? Now, this comes from Christopher Borgs, sorry if I messed up your last name, and what Christopher asks is, any tips on someone new coming into the game? I'm trying to get back in with Legion, and my brother-in-law wants to try Worm Hordes with our friend Dan. So any recommendations on friendly to use casters for beginners is appreciated. So as always, thanks Christopher for watching the shows here. But the biggest thing here I always like saying to new players is keep it easy. And it's so hard because there's so many casters. When you're first coming in, you don't know what any of them do. And how are you supposed to know what one's supposed to be good and which one's not supposed to be good? So I guess here, that's what we're going to be trying to address. Now, I said good, but I don't want to be focusing as a new player on which ones are powerful and which ones aren't. You know, if you're going on to the Facebook groups or listening to podcasts and they say, this is the best caster you should be playing, or this one at the bottom is like, oh, that's trash, don't even play that. Don't think about that at all. As a new player, you need to be focusing on just learning the rules of the game and really just getting into it and making sure that this is a game that you enjoy. So one of the things I usually tell first gamers coming in is start with a model that you just think looks awesome. So if you look at the rules, okay, that can be really tough because you don't know all the rules, but if you go and just look at the models, say like, okay, like you said, I want to be playing Legion. And this is a perfect example because my first faction was Legion. And when I first looked at all these different casters, the one that really came up to me was Thagrosh 2. You got this huge like demon thing. It's like, wow, that's amazing. How could anything ever compete? Like, you got this weird like puny man thing. I'm like basically like a big huge like demon dragon. I'm gonna rip things up, and I got a double blade. That's awesome. And it's one of those things where it might actually not work out in your favor, but as a new player trying to latch on to the game, it's actually pretty important. It's just like what I try and tell when people are trying to figure out what models to get into, not just for the caster, but for the units, where if you're getting in and you're building and trying to maybe paint as well, models that you just don't even like the aesthetic of. You're like, okay, I'll grab these because the internet says that they're good on the table, but man, they're ugly models. Or, you know what, I don't even like this type of theme they're going for, like trenchers. Like I don't even care about that. I want to have something else. Well, if that's what you care about, focus on that and try and go for those first. Now, that being said, there's then, if you don't want to be going for that and like look doesn't matter and you're going to be more going for the play style, know that there's lots of different casters and that there's lots of different ways that they're built. So one of the things that I would unfortunately say that contradicts the first thing I just said is stay away from ninjas. So what I mean from that is when you look at some of these things, like some of them will look like tiny and small and boring. Other ones will be like big strong things. You have like your little wizards, and then you'll have a class that I call the ninjas, where they're like the Ryases and like Ashland and stuff like that, where they just look like they're going to be like zipping around the field and killing things. And the problem with that, even though like the idea of ninjas is cool, is that they're also usually very difficult to play and also very risky to play. They're casters that you need to be aggressive with, getting in there, doing lots of damage, and by needing to do these things and usually having to be very careful, like, okay, I need to attack here but not die from that, and then cast this spell, but I have to really watch to make sure I'm camping enough so I don't die. It can be very, very complicated. What you want to be going with is that first class. Remember I talked about like that small, boring one? Those are usually your support casters. Those are usually the ones that want to stay back and like cast spells and then stay safe. Or the big, strong, tanky ones, those ones do okay too, because they usually can do the same thing, but they're just a little bit more tankier. So let's look at Legion and look at some examples here. And I can already tell you which ones, but let's just look at this just to make sure I'm not wrong about this. But here's some examples. We'll just go down the list. Abby 1 and 2. Abby 1 a good idea. Abby 1 is one who wants to stay back. She's a support caster. She's going to be supporting her beast, making them big and strong, and she can stay back. You can be starting to work on like, okay, I should be staying behind a wall or in cover, something like that. Whereas Abby 2, where she needs to charge in and do damage in order to trigger her things to set up her beast, that's more complicated. So I would not go with Abby 2. Animeg, that's maybe one that can work. It's more now with the infantry, and so something might come here with, like I was saying, with that aesthetic. If you like the beasts, you might want to be going with, say, Abby 1. If you like to go with the kind of like ogre type things, then you might want to be going with Animeg. Animeg is one that really likes to stay back and stay safe and make all of her troops and things really, really tough and strong. So hey, that could be a good one for you to start with. Bethane? Bethane is complicated. It's one of the only, I think, the only model that goes like in and outside of another model. Too complicated. Just strike that one off right now. Fianna 2, another ninja type one. I try and stay away from that. Callus 1, that's another great one. This is one where if you just like the look of lots of the smaller infantry, this is a great one for you. A very simple caster, likes to stay back, supports well, and will let you learn how to play the game. Now, the only thing where that might be bad is as a new player, you're usually not having all this infantry. You're having all kind of like the bigger beasties, but if you do have access to that, a great place to start. Callus 2 can work as well. I would not say as well as Callus 1, but can work out for you. Krissa, I've actually never played with, so I don't know her that well, so I'm not going to say for or against. I mean, I can look into the war room and I can do and give you the rules, but I want to make sure from my experience as well, and this is one where I don't have a lot of experience. Lilith 1, 2, and 3. Now, these are all archers. These are ones that want to stay back and shoot things, and so from that point, that's not a bad thing. You know, if you're staying back, just kind of staying safe, if you're shooting, that's not so bad either. Now, between them though, here's the thing you got to remember is that Lilith 1 is a regular archer, Lilith 2 is a regular archer, and Lilith 3 is on a huge slate on a huge base. And this is where we might want to get into huge bases, because those can be very difficult to be playing with. When you have these huge bases, they're getting in the way of other models, and you got to worry about terrain and all this stuff, and where your landing zones can be, that can get complicated. Plus, they're expensive models. So, whereas I'd say like Lilith 1 and Lilith 2, they're completely okay. Lilith 3, I might want to steer away from that one. Rias, that's another example of a ninja. I'd stay away from that one. She wants to charge in there, kill things, jump over here. It's complicated. New player, don't go towards that one. Saren, you could do Saren. This is one where it's one of those ones like the mage ones in the back. You could be doing that. I was going to be making a comment about how she's not very good right now, but I'm going to hold that back because, you know what? I'm telling you that that's not important as a first player. So if you like the look of her, go ahead, play her. Thagrosh 1 and 2, both of these ones, completely fine. In fact, Thagrosh 1 is one that's really commonly gone to for new players, and the reason for that is because he kind of wants to hold back safe-ish, but can always smack something down if he needs to, and it's all about having your battle group. So for people that are starting with like a couple of heavies and a light or something like that, well, his feat brings one back, and so it works perfectly for that. So that's a great example of one. And then Thagrosh 2. Thagrosh 2 is, like I said, the one that I started with. I had a blast to play. You can use it with your battle group models. He looks awesome. So that's another one I give a thumbs up on. The twins, so this is one that has Rias and Saren. Super complicated model. Not only do you have the ninja element, but you have two models working together, and it's, no, again, a complicated one, just kind of like Bethane, so stay away from that one. Then we have Veil 1 and Veil 2. Now, Veil 1, I would say probably not. So Veil 1 is kind of one of your spellcaster ones, but she's designed in a way that she wants to be up near the front. So for new players, that can be very tough to pull off, and a lot of times if I see new players start with Veil 1, they just get themselves killed. So I would just go ahead and maybe pass on that one unless you really love the look of her and maybe want to play her a little bit more inefficiently in the back. But if you like her, maybe look at Veil 2, same type of thing, except that she can do all her safe spell casting from way in the back. So that's a good one to be going with that. So I don't think, I mean, looking from all these, I mean, I could say like, this is the best one to do, which if I've had to give like one example of this is the one you might want to start with, probably Thagrosh 1, because it's fairly forgiving, looks cool, starts near the back, can do some smash down if it needs to. But as you heard going through there, there's some other good examples as well. So look at the casters, see which ones you think look cool, look at the models, see which ones you think look cool. Also think about your budget going into this game. If you're someone who's just going to be buying the battle box, I mean, from right there you might as well be looking at the battle box caster. But if you're just going to be having a couple of beasts to start, well, of course you want to go with the ones I mentioned that actually want to be based around a battle group. If you have a little bit more money to invest and you're going to be buying some of the infantry, whether it's the smaller ones or the larger ogre ones, you go, okay, that's where you can start looking into these other ones. So there you go. There's my video on what casters you should be playing as a new player. Of course, you could be applying this to all the other factions, and it really just comes down to the same thing. The weak little, kind of like tiny guys, they're usually the support casters that's in the back. They're good to go with. If they're big, tanky, strong guys, they're usually good, okay to go with. The spell ones, as long as they're not like Veil 1 needing to be in the front, you could be okay. So that one you might want to dig a little bit deeper in to see how they actually operate. And then finally the ninjas, those are the ones you probably want to stay away from. But you know, I think honestly more importantly than that is, of course, just you're a new player, you're getting into this game, you just want to have fun. I'm pretty sure that, you know, Christopher, you're not coming to this saying like, hey, what's the best caster so I can crush my new buddies? Like, that might be somewhere there in the recesses of your mind, but you're probably more looking forward to having a blast and having some fun. And if you look at any of us veteran player, we don't just have one caster. The caster is the cheapest thing that you have there to replace to completely change the way your force works, and so expect to be having lots of these. That was the thing that I loved coming into this, whereas in some other games, if I get a new HQ model or something like that, it slightly changes the way that the whole force fights. But in War Machine, the change of the Warlock or the Warcaster massively changes the way that it plays, and usually the casters are extremely cheap because they're just one small infantry model. So, you know, don't feel like you're locked in. Know that you're going to be able to enjoy your way through, and probably after like the first 6 months of playing, you're already going to have like 3-4 Warlocks or Warcasters anyway. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.